And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your RBLR Rays show. I'm Ben. Zach is not here today. He is at the Disney Princess Castle in Magic Kingdom. So in his place, we have I'm not kidding, he actually is in Disney. We have a couple of special guests in his place because two is better than one. First, we have from the RBLR Bucks show, Carter Brantley. How's it going, Carter? Good morning.
Oh, it's going well. A beautiful morning. The Rays won yesterday, so woke up feeling good. Hope y'all are doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're always happy to have you on and kind of cross-contaminate our shows here. We've also got him from Twitter as @RaysMetrics. That is Cole Mitchem, and from D-Rays Bay. Cole Mitchem. Good morning, Cole. How's it going? Happy to have you on.
Yeah, it's going well. Thanks again for having me. Always excited. Trade deadline just passed. The Rays are back in their groove a little bit, and feels good.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and you are correct. The trade deadline did pass, so that's why we really wanted to have you on, so we can kind of talk about what the Rays did, what they didn't do, who they got, all that kind of good stuff. So that is one of the bigger things that happened this week. The trade deadline haul was headlined by Aaron Savale. I think I'm saying that right. I actually haven't heard his name said out loud. I've only read it online, so if I'm wrong there, somebody let me know. But then we've also got Curtis Mead called up and made his big league debut last night. Got a base hit on his first pitch that he saw, so congrats to him. Tyler Glasgow was named the AL Pitcher of the Month for July, and Shane McClanahan was placed on the IL. So lots to talk about this week, but before we get into all that stuff, I do want to remind everybody to, first of all, the most important thing is that we were nominated as a finalist for the Best of the Bay Awards again. So thank you. We really want to finish the job this time. So if you could make sure you vote for us at, I think it's just like creativeloafingcl.com, I'm pretty sure. Vote for us for the best podcast. If you think we're the best, that would be great. I think we're one of the only sports ones on there from what I remember, and from like standing over my wife's shoulder while she was voting and coaching her into which people to vote for, specifically for us. But anyways, yeah, vote for us, please, for the Best of the Bay. That really helps us a lot. You don't have to buy anything. Don't worry about that. Just if you could vote for us, that would be great. So I'm going to stop talking here. Let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline. What do you guys, what are you thinking? Like, did the Rays do enough? Who was your favorite acquisition? I guess I'm rapid firing too many questions here. Let's start. Who was your favorite acquisition, Carter, out of all the players the Rays got?
I know Aaron Savale is the popular answer, but the international bonus pool money I thought was really interesting, just because like the Rays obviously can do so many different things with that type of thing, and they didn't really give up anything to get that money. So I'm really excited. I mean, obviously Wander was an international free agent, and there's just so much talent that comes through that, kind of funnel, so to speak. So yeah, I was really excited to see them kind of boost that a little bit. Just the Rays, they're never going to make, a big splashy move, but that's because they don't need to. So I thought that was my favorite acquisition, just because I'd love to see where it goes from here.
No, that's awesome. That's a really great answer. I like that a lot. Cole, what are you thinking?
Well, I thought that was a really good point, Carter, and I was going to talk about that trade too, honestly, because I really think it's cool how the Rays prioritize getting something like international bonus pool money in trades, because it's almost like they're like giving their scouts and their development teams like empowerment, and they're saying, hey, here's more money, here's a chance for us to find more and more players. And like, I don't think that a lot of contenders are necessarily like prioritizing that, but the Rays always are. It's the same thing with competitive balanced draft picks. Oftentimes, every few years, the Rays will make a trade and they'll grab one of those picks. And I just think it's cool to constantly keep replenishing the system in a little bit of a unique way that not a ton of teams are doing. I also believe they grabbed international bonus pool money earlier this year in the Ben Heller trade as well. So just another little nugget that is cool to keep note of. But speaking of that trade from a larger perspective, I thought it was also it was a small deal in the grand scheme of things, but it was cool to see the Rays sort of exploit a team that looked like they were kind of pinned up against the wall a little bit financially with the Cubs. So the Cubs had just previously made an acquisition, grabbing Heimer Candelario and taking on his salary for the rest of the year. It seems like that may have pushed them over the line a little bit money wise. I don't know exactly what their situation was like with the luxury tax, but of all teams to come in and take a underwater contract, albeit a small one, in Adrian Sampson, it happened to be the Rays to do that. And in exchange, they get a reliever, Manuel Rodriguez, who I think is probably going to help the big league team down the stretch this year, as well as that bonus pool money. So I thought that was just a neat little way for the Rays to step in and kind of help their team using another team that was a little bit in a tough spot, or however you want to phrase that. So I thought that was neat.
Right. It definitely is interesting how they were kind of able to leverage their situation as well as the Cubs situation and get, stockpile a little bit of that bonus pool money, which really could be useful down the line, because if you believe in your ability to identify and develop talent, that bonus pool money is like a wild card. Like, you can do so much with that. So it's really exciting. I believe there are some like Korean players in the upcoming international draft class, Korean pitchers specifically, who like all throw like upper 90s and have some nasty stuff. So they could really turn that money into something great in the not so distant future. But moving on to the next question here that I have. Do you guys think the Rays did enough at the deadline? They said they wanted to acquire an arm or two. I know the offense was kind of dragging their feet a little bit during the month of July, so that maybe put a little bit of pressure on them to look into adding some offense. But they kind of stuck to that, and they really did add two pitchers. I know we traded away Josh Robertson, who was probably going to be taken in the Rule 5 draft anyways, because he's kind of a flash in a pan experiment, like lightning in a bottle type thing. If you can get him, great. If not, you just end up losing him later. But yeah, I mean, they added the two arms that they wanted to add. So, Carter, do you think the Rays did enough at the deadline?
Yes and no. It's always tricky with the Rays front office, because I feel like at this point, Major League Baseball knows that the Rays, if the Rays are calling you, then you might not want to pick up. They've taken advantage of way too many teams for teams to just simply go along with whatever the Rays want. So I feel like that's come at a price almost. Like whenever the Rays call, teams are like, oh, well, whatever the Rays want, we got to jack up the prices. So I feel like the trade deadline can be kind of a difficult thing to evaluate with the Rays, simply because they have such a kind of a sparkling reputation in the front office. So at this point, it's kind of hard to evaluate. But I'm kind of bouncing around the question. Sorry. But yes, I do think that they got enough in terms of what they could trade for. Obviously, losing Manzardo was tough, but also they have Xavier Isaac, who's tearing it up in the minors. So I think that kind of cushions the blow a little bit. You don't want to give up Mead or Caminero or anything like that. So I thought that they did a good job of acquiring something, but also still holding true to the future.
Nice. That's a good point. Cole, what are you thinking? Did they do enough?
Yep, I agree. The team that they had in place before the deadline is very similar to the team that's still here. And, they were struggling. July was a rough month, obviously, but it's only 1 month. And I think even Peter Bendix went on the record and said, a few weeks of bad play is not going to change our perspective and our evaluations of these players over the long run. They have the team that they do for a reason. And it's like, for example, the last few months, the offense has kind of been in a little bit of a decline. So I saw a lot of people out on Twitter and other forums kind of clamoring for the Rays to get a hitter at the deadline. But you have to take into account the opportunity cost of that. The Rays position player mix at the moment is really like locked in place. There's a lot of players with no minor league options. There's a lot of young players who have taken real steps forward over the last year to 2 years. And, if bringing in a bat means you just have to send like Josh Lowe to AAA or something like that, then like, is that even like rough feathers worth ruffling, at that point? So I think there may have been like a creative way they could have fit in some kind of versatile piece, but again, maybe then you have to do like a Phantom IL stint with somebody. And at the end of the day, like cost benefit. I just don't think they found like a perfect match. So they're just going to run it back with this offense that was absolutely tremendous in the first 2 months of the season. And like you can't really fault them for that. You know, that the numbers that the offense was putting up at that point were just ridiculous. You know, they went through a lull here lately, but they're betting on them to get back and rolling here in the second half. And I think that's a fine bet to take, and probably something I would have done myself.
Right. I mean, I think it's similar to the way it is similar to the way they run their minor leagues. Like, if you believe in your ability to acquire, identify, develop talent, that doesn't change. Like, if you start questioning your own ability, like, what were you believing in the first place? So if you believe that you have a quality team at the major league level and they have a rough month because they're tired and, you know, the schedule sucks and guys are kind of banged up and they're out of sync, whatever, going to cross time zones, no off days, like that thing, why would you kind of backtrack on what you believe this group is capable of? So I really like that the front office kind of stood pat on that. I know that there were rumors though that Manuel Margot could have been shopped. I don't know how to do grammar right now. I do have some stuff I'll mention off the air about that, but um, when we're done recording. But yeah, what do you guys think about those rumors that Margot was possibly being shopped around? And you know, if the Rays wanted to move him, what do you think would have been the ideal acquisition? Like, would they replace him like externally? Would they have, like, you know, tried to acquire someone outside the organization, or would they, you know, send him away to give Mead a chance or someone like that? But we know Mead is up already now anyway. So I don't know. What do you guys think about Margot being rumored of uh I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but what do you think about that? Everything I just said.
Right. Yeah, Margot's been having a bit of a tough season, so it would have been awkward just because I don't know that they would have gotten much for him. It would have been more of like a roster clearing or salary clearing move. Um, I don't know how you replace him. You know, it's kind of tough because I feel like the outfield depth gets a little awkward when you go down to the minors. Maybe they could have flipped him for someone like a utility piece, maybe someone who can play. Because right now my big concern is just that Taylor Walls is the only other guy that can play shortstop really for the Rays, which is hard, you know, because Taylor Walls has been really struggling this year. So maybe they could have traded him for a super utility guy who can play, you know, middle infield and all over the outfield. That would have been kind of fun, but no, I like Manny Margot. I think he seems like a good leader in the clubhouse. I think that you can't really put a measurement on that. He submits some pretty good at bats. He's a good defensive outfielder. So I like that they kept him around for sure.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there too. I agree that it would have been really tough to configure a series of trades involving Margot that improved the team for this year, right? Like he he has his flaws. Overall, he's a fairly light hitting outfielder might be best as a fourth outfielder on a really good team like the Rays are. But he plays a pretty great role on the club, especially when you have lefty swingers with Rayleigh and Josh Lowe in the outfield that, to be honest, probably shouldn't be facing left-handed pitching. And having the speed off the bench and the defensive value that he brings, he's kind of the perfect guy to have around for a deep postseason run. Also it wasn't long ago where he went off in the playoffs in 2020. He had a monster playoffs there, and like you said, he's a leader. They extended him for a reason, and like I can't say the rumors necessarily surprised me, just based on the fact that he is an older player who is getting more expensive, and his years of control are dwindling down. So like, just given those facts about him, the Rays will probably look for trades. It's just what they do, no matter really who you are. But agree again, like I didn't. It would have taken something that is beyond my brain power to come up with a move that involved dealing Margot and improving the team. I don't know what that move would have looked like.
Right. No, I'm totally on the same page. I just think, it doesn't really, I mean, it does cost something to keep him around. There's always a cost of anything you do, but he's an integral part of the team, and it would have been really, really complicated to, send him off while improving the roster. So yeah. But the biggest acquisition here is definitely Aaron Savale. Like Kyle Manzardo is a steep price, but it seems like they really like him. They got the kind of innings eater type starter with a lot of team control that they were looking for. What are you guys most excited about with Savale? I know he's starting today. We're recording on Saturday. So he's going to go against the Tigers in a couple hours. What are you looking forward to most about seeing him pitch for the Rays?
I'm really excited that he's debuting against the Tigers. With all due respect to Detroit, they're not, they're not Texas. They're not Houston. They're not any of the AL East teams. So it's kind of a soft landing for him, which I think is great. Settling into a new team, new uniform. So I'm really excited about that. But I don't know. Like you said, innings eater is probably the biggest thing. Just a healthy arm, because at this point the Rays are just losing so many guys left and right. It's hard. So yeah, I'm excited that, again, all due respect to Yanni Chirinos, I'm glad that we don't have to see him pitch anymore. He was great in his heyday, but it just seems like the injuries kind of got to him. And it's good that Savale is going to step in and fill in kind of Shane's role now at this point, because Zach Littell has been monster dynamite performances. So filling in Savale as well is just it's awesome. So I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there too. I think Savale is like he kind of represents like a lot of the different things the Rays have been looking for in pitchers over the past few years, kind of combined into one. I think there's like, first off, I think that one of the biggest reasons that they went hard after them is just due to his overall command. Like this guy, you can use kind of some more in-depth modeling based metrics such as location plus, that he has rated out very strongly in that metric for years, as far as command goes. I also know, because I've heard Ray's brass talk about this on air, that they have internal command models, and it was apparently a big reason that they went out and signed Zach Eflin this offseason. I heard that in an interview with Kyle Snyder. He said that their internal command evaluations rated Zach Eflin as the number one pitcher in baseball, command-wise, and you can see how that's working out for them. And I really think Savale is probably up there high on that list as well. But in addition to just command, I think his arsenal is really interesting too. His fastball has the highest spin rate of his career this year, as well as vertical movement. And he's throwing also kind of a new improved cutter more than he ever has, which is something the Rays really like to do. I think the cutter is a good way to kind of miss barrels and get off the end of the bat a little bit. And there's been countless examples of the Rays bringing pitchers in and telling them to lean into their cutter. I think Savale will just continue to do that once he's here. And then also super high spin rates on his breaking balls too. He's able to get big movement on like in all directions. Like he throws a hammer curveball with huge drop vertically. He's even played around with like sweeping slider shapes as well to get more horizontal movement. I think he's still kind of tinkering too with the whole like pitch mix. Like if you look at his last 2-3 years, like there's just a lot of different like shapes going on. Just because I think the guy just has really good ability to spin the ball and just create like a ton of different looks, which just sounds probably like just the most exciting thing Kyle Snyder has ever had to work with. I mean, a guy with great command and like all these different ingredients to play around with. Like, I mean, really the main knock on Savale is just that his velo is low. But like everything else that you can really use to evaluate a pitcher looks pretty exciting for this guy. And velo is just one part of the equation. So I'm really excited. There is a bit of downside in the acquisition. He has an injury history, and he's also just a pitcher, and pitchers get hurt, and that's part of it. And the Rays definitely paid a heavy price to get him. Most people, if you've been following me on Twitter, know I'm in love with Manzardo. I've loved the guy since they drafted him. He's hit for years. I think he will hit in the big leagues. Kind of reminds me a little bit of how the Rays dealt Nate Lowe, and Nate Lowe is having success in the big leagues now. They're not the same like body type exactly, but statistically there are a lot of similarities there. It wouldn't surprise me to see Manzardo go on and have a career pretty similar to Lowe. Honestly, maybe even call that likely. But you know, the Rays obviously have their calculus in place. They're willing to give up a guy like that who is one dimensional in the field, which kind of does cap his ceiling in the long term, Manzardo. And I think they're just getting a pitcher that they're just going to love, and they have every opportunity to really like optimize Savale's stuff. And it would not surprise me to like see this guy get Cy Young votes next year. You know, if he can stay healthy, I really think it's a full package type of pitcher. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, he really is, and he's an excellent pitcher. I really like what you said about optimization. He seems like the prime candidate for some kind of, not like a huge makeover during the season.
Right.
Maybe that's more of an off-season project, but he's for a 28-year-old starting pitcher with, I think he has like over 250 big league innings already or close to it. He's almost a blank slate. Like he's got years of control. He's got really great feel for a ton of pitches, but like you said before, he's kind of like changing shapes, changing usage. Like he's got that outlier curveball. It's one of the steepest curveballs that you can throw, not just because of the velo, but because of the movement. Like a lot of guys who throw that steep, like it's a really slow, like closer to 70-mile-an-hour curveball, but he's got a little bit of mustard on it, and he can really just spin the ball, like you said. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go. I'm really excited about that. And we're probably not going to see it for at least a couple weeks because they do kind of have their like getting to know you speed dating period where they don't really touch players, especially pitchers when they first come in. They just kind of let them do their thing, let them do what they're comfortable with, and then they start making adjustments. So maybe later on in August we'll start to see some of the changes, but I'm really excited. I think he's a really safe pitcher given his command, injury history, whatever. Like that's just the game. You're like when you're a pitcher, you're like making a deal with the devil. Like if you want to be really, really good, you're most likely going to have to take on some injury risk. And that's just the nature of the beast. The Rays don't shy away from that because, like we've said before, they believe in their ability to identify and develop talent. So injuries won't really scare them away from, going after guys. It might scare them away from signing them to a long-term contract, which is kind of why I've been like pumping the brakes when people say they want McClanahan to be signed long-term. He's already under team control for a while. So, but anyways, that's for another day.
Quick
Yeah.
question for you,
Yeah.
Ben. All right, both of you. I like what you said about the injury risk, and a lot of the Rays' recent moves have made me sort of believe that the Rays kind of have this philosophy in place where they say all pitchers have injury risk. We don't know how to predict it from one pitcher to another. So we're almost going to like just throw that out the window. And if one guy is cheaper to acquire because he was previously injured, then like that's the guy we're going to go after. It seems to me like that's just a little bit of a kind of like a loose philosophy, but it seems to kind of match up with a lot of the moves they make.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, pitcher injuries across baseball are just really hard. They're all just going up. Everyone's having Tommy John. Everyone's doing this and that. So yeah, I mean, like Ben said, the deal with the devil. That's a perfect way to put it. You're just you're risking it every time you throw the baseball in the majors. So it's hard. So why not just say, hey, injury history? Who cares? Everyone has an injury history. Everyone's going to have an injury history in the pitching world. So yeah, I'm with it. It's a good philosophy to have because it's unpredictable, like Ben said. How about you, Ben? What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean they believe in being able to identify, acquire, develop talent. So injuries shouldn't hinder that. I know they're going to do whatever they can to prevent injuries, and they really take their time in like rehabbing guys. Like they'll bring in guys that are injured and build them back up and help them like revive their careers. I know Johnny Venters was a really great story when he came around from like his third Tommy John surgery. Rays brought him back up and let him do his thing, but they're never trying to intentionally get guys injured. They just don't really see injury risk as like a barrier to acquiring a player, I think, as much as other teams might do, kind of like what Cole was saying. Like they're just going to go out and get the best player, and if that player has a history, oh well, like that's it's not something that isn't considered, but it's not really going to stop them. So
Right. Yeah, and I think you made a good point too. I have no doubt the Rays are doing everything they possibly can to prevent injuries, to help injured pitchers. Like that part, I have no doubts about. But yeah, as far as like the actual acquisitions, like say you have two identical pitchers, one has a long injury history and one doesn't. Like I think they almost value those guys as the same. Like I just pretty close at least. Like just that's at least how I've been reading it.
Absolutely. And speaking of injured pitchers, we really don't have much of an update on McClanahan, but he is currently on the IL with some forearm tightness. Apparently, it's like the outside of his arm, so it's not like the concerning. Well, it's the less concerning spot, I guess, but it's really just all speculation at this point. We don't really know. I'm sure we'll get an update at some point this weekend, maybe on Monday, early next week, whatever. But to take McClanahan's spot on the roster, Curtis Mead was called up and he got a hit in his big league debut last night. He's going to have some playing time, I guess. Topkin reported that he's going to get some DH days, some time at third base. He'll, probably give some guys a break around the infield. I was a little surprised, honestly. I thought maybe they'd call up a pitcher. And then if they're going to call up a position player, I kind of just assume Jonathan Aranda. But I know he has to be in the minors for a certain amount of time. But he's replacing an injured player, so I'm pretty sure that rule goes out the window. And it's kind of a better fit because Aranda's a lefty, Mead is a righty. I know sometimes platoon type things don't really matter, but just based on like where he can get regular playing time, it seems like Aranda has the best bet for it, but Mead is getting a chance. So I don't know. First of all, I know you guys are excited about Mead, but why Mead and why now? What do you think that kind of signals for the team, Carter?
I mean, as far as why Mead, why now, like why not? Like the team, the offense has been kind of like Cole and y'all have been saying it kind of struggled for a little bit. It seems to be bouncing back. They've had some really, really nice performances over the past week and a half. So why not infuse some excitement? Mead's a top 100 prospect. Whenever any of those guys get called up, it's exciting for both the player and the team, just because it's almost like a trade acquisition. Guys talk about when a guy walks into a clubhouse and the team realizes, oh, we just got better. It's the same with calling up a prospect. So I'd imagine that it has that same kind of reaction for the team, just kind of galvanizing the squad a little bit. And also Curtis Mead's a great player. I think we can all agree. Doubles machine, just gap to gap. So I'm really excited to see what he does. I'm not going to get into the like Aranda or Mead thing just because I think Mead can play defensively. Aranda struggles a bit with that, so I think that might have had something to do with it, maybe. Just because they need to give Paredes some time off, although he's been really, really hot. But they also need to give Yandy's a little bit of time off. Yandy's had a little bit of injury issues this year as well, so. I don't know. I mean, why not? Curtis Mead's a great player and he's been hot, so he's been having a great year in Durham, so why not?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Carter. I think that when the Rays make a move, we oftentimes it's like run to the computer to try to dig into the data to figure out what did they see or what's going on here. But I think this move might just kind of be a little bit about like rewarding the guy for a great season, getting his feet wet. Because I kind of agree with you, Ben. The fit is not perfect at the moment. I don't think Mead will probably play like quite as often as you might like, just mostly due to him being a right-hander. But yeah, also like what you said, Carter, about like pumping some life into the clubhouse. Rewarding the kid for a monster tear he's been on in AAA since coming back. He's just a really good hitter, and I think they want to give him a cup of coffee. They did this with Josh Lowe 2 years ago. They gave him a tiny little stint, like a couple games in the big leagues at the end of the year, and I think it just might be something like that. Personally, I don't know if I expect. So the Rays right now are carrying 14 position players and 12 pitchers. Which I don't believe they have done one time all year. They always there's a roster cap where you can only carry a max of 13 pitchers, and the Rays basically always have that maxed out. They do 13-13 split just to keep the pitching depth as much as they can. And right now with Shane down and the amount of off days that are coming up in the schedule, I think they just thought it was a decent time to squeeze another hitter into the mix. And I think that they're just trying to reward Mead with it. The other note I will say is rosters do expand at the end of August or at the start of September. So the Rays will be able to add one pitcher and one hitter to the team then. And I think we might see them like toggle around, maybe Mead for a week, then Aranda, like kind of who fits best, and just kind of play around that way. So yeah, I don't think it's like super deep like analysis that has to really go into it. I think that they just wanted to reward the guy, and I'm really excited to see him play. I think he'll be in there against basically every lefty that they see. I don't see why he wouldn't, but yeah, and then probably sparingly against righties. So
Right. I mean, he can hit righties. It's just, he's always going to be better against lefties, obviously.
and the Rays have a lot of people who can hit righties that have
Yeah.
to play too. That's the other problem.
That's true. So there is a lefty starting for Detroit today, so that should be fun. I expect Mead to be in the lineup. I don't know where he'll be batting. I'm sure it won't be in like the top 3 or 4 because that's usually pretty set. They have their guys that they like to put up there when they're healthy. But yeah, I'm excited to see him at the big league level. I've seen a lot of stuff on him in the minors, and he's the real deal. I think those rumors of a contract extension when spring training is wrapping up, I think those are very true. He seems like he's going to be able to play at the majors. There's no doubt about it. Like he is really, really talented. So excited about him, and I can't wait to see what he does.
One quick point also that I forgot to say regarding to this. Do we have any concerns about Luke Raley and possibly an IL stint? That was the other thought. I haven't heard anything. I know he's had a few days off now because he fouled the ball off his knee, right?
Mm-hmm. He said yesterday that he's feeling much better.
Okay.
And X-rays were negative, and he was available yesterday off the bench if needed.
That's good news.
So I think he would have to not just break a bone, but really break a bone to go on the IL. Like he's really tough. Like he's a tough guy. He's built he is 230 pounds of just solid tree trunk. So yeah, I'm pretty confident he's indestructible. Same thing with Yandy, but maybe not. Like Yandy is really strong too, but Luke Raley's a different kind of strong.
Yeah.
Like he's
built for tough.
He's a defensive end. Like he's in the wrong sport. I mean, he's in the right sport because he's an awesome baseball player. But yeah, he's a big boy. But another big boy is my bat of the week, Isaac Paredes. Fantastic week this week, and he capped it off with a great game against his former team. I think Detroit already knows they kind of messed up in letting him go, but he just keeps rubbing it in. Like he loves extra base hits, and he loves to hit them against Detroit. He had a 269 WRC plus this week, which was the 10th best in the big leagues, just ahead of Shohei Ohtani, and he was tied with a bunch of guys for the third most FWAR among hitters. He's so good. He's so fun to watch. I picked him up in fantasy for free this year in our RBLR league. I don't remember who dropped him, but oh my gosh, that's why would I'm pretty comfortably in first place. I gotta admit. So yeah, just love Paredes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Paredes was the best. Yeah, he's the best. He's an awesome third baseman too. I love Paredes at third, and I love him at the plate. Obviously, he's got that pull power that he loves to exploit, and he really showed it this week. I am comfortably in last place in our RBLR league, unfortunately. So that's how it goes sometimes. But
you were probably the guy who dropped. You probably dropped.
Was that? Oh, I don't.
Probably dropped.
Did I drop Brady? I might have, honestly. But he's in both of my other fantasy leagues, that's the good news. The 2 paid fantasy leagues. So nice. Gotta make that money. But yeah, he's been putting in work for sure.
Yeah. I just want to get a quick answer from you guys on this. Do you think Paredes will be the next position player who gets a contract extension on this roster?
Ooh, I don't know. I struggle with this one. Because I think that Paredes' value is going to be incredibly high this offseason. And the Rays love to cash in on guys like that. They do not like to wait until past their prime, so to speak. And with Mead coming up, with Caminero playing so well, I'm afraid he might be a trade candidate instead of an extension candidate this offseason, or maybe the offseason late prior, or the next offseason. I don't know. I hope he is. I love Isak. I would love for the Rays to keep him around. It would just seem like a very Rays move to trade him in the offseason after he's had such a productive year, just because, his value, like I said, his value is probably never going to be higher because he's had a really good year. So I don't know. It's tough. I'd love for him to get an extension, though. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've just been like extremely like intrigued by this guy since the Rays got him. He's just like a unique hitter. Like there's like not really many people like him. Like in the aggregate, he actually doesn't hit the ball like super hard, like most of the time. But he just can turn on the ball like really quite often and just send one like 350 feet down the line. And his plate skills are like tremendous. And like you wouldn't think necessarily a guy with that body type would be like a slick defender, but he really is, and he can play a couple spots on the infield. I I'm just like he just like continues to impress me, and I personally would not want to see him go anywhere. And I do think I also, as far as trade talks, I think it would probably be too early because he still has, I think, 4 more years of control after this one. So I don't think they would necessarily entertain trades this offseason. But, it's the Rays, so you have to ask those questions, right? But I think he would be a pretty prime extension candidate. I could definitely see them talking to him about it, and just because of how well he plays on both sides of the ball, I think that gives him a really high floor to just be a solid player for a few years. But as for like, if I think he will be the guy, this is a tough one because I always struggle to figure out like who the Rays are looking at to extend. Like personally, I would have never guessed they gave Jeffrey Springs a contract extension this past offseason. I don't know that, and probably same with Fairbanks. Like I don't know that just never really like came to my mind. But the other guy I'm kind of thinking, I do think Paredes is a candidate for an extension, but maybe Jose Siri. I could see them exploring an extension with as well. Paredes is a good bit younger than Siri though too, so maybe that works in his favor more. But yeah, I'm a little bit kind of throwing my hands up as far as extension talks go. It's tough to read the Rays on those.
Yeah, it really is. I guess that was more just wishful thinking on my part because I want them to keep this core around forever. And Paredes is, I think he's pretty. It's safe to say he's established in that core at this point. He was somebody that Peter Bendix name dropped a couple times, and Eric Neander in the offseason to say as someone who was a young player that took a step forward to establish themselves as a major leaguer last year, and he's only built on that this year. And it's just awesome. He's so cool. He's like a cheat code. He does the same thing every time, and nobody can figure out how to stop him. So love it. Keep it up. Another guy I want to see signed to a lifetime extension is my pitcher of the week, Zach Littell. He's awesome. He is so cool. He is a human science experiment, and I'm so happy about him. He's really come so far in such a short amount of time. Nobody knows how long it'll last, but what a fun week. He is dominating everybody, and yeah, he's just got cool pitches. That's about it. Good stuff. Oh, he was also I had one thing on him. He was tied with a couple guys for the third most pitcher FWAR this week. So pretty valuable guy. Carved up Houston, carved up Detroit. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, any guy that can beat the crap out of Houston's automatically one of my favorite players, unless they're a Yankee. But yeah, anybody that can carve up Houston's going to shoot up my rankings for sure. But speaking of the Yankees, my arm of the week is Tyler Glasnow, because Glasnow was filthy, and he went to Yankee Stadium in a big time game. I think it was nationally televised, and he pitched 7 innings and was just lights out. Zach Littell was awesome as well. I don't mean to take anything away from him. The Rays just had some really amazing pitching performances. I mean, they've been playing well, and if you're playing well, then you're probably getting good pitching performances. So, I really could have gone either way, but Glass now, he just, Oppenheimer came out. I know we had that
A good week for
Oppenheimer
him.
tweet. Right, exactly. A good week for him. So, I had to give it to Glass now. Because it's secretly Cillian Murphy just pitching for the Rays and also wearing like, I don't know how tall Cillian Murphy is, but obviously Tyler Glasnow's a good bit taller than him. But yeah, I was really excited to see Glasnow pitch well because he's still coming back from that injury a little bit, and he seems to be back. He seems to be Tyler Glasnow, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's like fully healthy this year for the first time in like a long time. Like it's been a really long, like he's always kind of had just like, he had like a half broken ankle for a couple years. Like he was pitching on a failing ligament since 2019. Just really awesome that he's fully healthy. When do you guys think Glasnow is someone who's going to be sticking around long term, or is he someone that could possibly just, I mean, I know the contract is huge, so that's always going to kind of be on fans' minds. It's like, will Glasnow get traded? But I honestly think he's going to be around for a while. I could see them working out some kind of other extension. He likes it here. He's never going to, put all his cards on the table, but he does really he loves the coaching staff. He loves the players on the team. He loves pitching at the Trop. I don't know. Do you guys think he'll be around for a bit?
I mean, I hope so. I know the fan in me hopes so, but the Rays fan in me thinks probably not. So I would love to see him stick around. He's a great interview. Whenever he's on TV or anything like that, super fun, super engaging. And he's kind of a big name in baseball, like literally and figuratively. So it kind of brings some notoriety to the Rays because they're always so under the radar, just winning games, kind of trucking along. But Glasnow's a kind of a star pitcher in the league. So, I'd love for him to stick around. Unfortunately, I don't know how realistic that is. But, hopefully they can work something out. But then again, like you said, the contract, the money is big. And the opportunity cost would be huge because, it's just, that if you're paying Tyler Glasnow quite a bit of money, then obviously that money isn't going to be used for other players. So it can be a bit tough to look at that kind of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, so what I think about Glasnow is, first off, I think the Rays are going to get some big offers, trade offers for him in the winter. I mean, it's just they're going to listen, and these teams are going to want him, right? So that part I'm at least expecting, and as far as that's happening, like there's a chance that he's going to go because I believe it's just 1 year and 25 million remaining on his deal. But the fact that it's only 1 year left and that the salary is pretty high, that's actually going to diminish his value in the trade market a little bit. And I could see them maybe not quite getting like an offer that they really deem fair, just because the Rays are kind of going to have if things go to plan and like Shane is okay coming out of this, they're going to actually have a big group of starting pitchers. So I could see them entertaining trades for one of them. But Glasnow might be kind of a guy who actually sticks around because of the salary and the years of control left. Maybe they get I'm just going to spitball, but maybe they get even bigger offers for like Savale or for Eflin or somebody who have more years of control and whose salaries are lower. Or even Shane or something. Like I'm not trying to say like one of these guys will necessarily be traded, but as far as the calculus of it, the Rays like to capitalize on value, and I just don't know if Glasnow would be the guy to bring you the most back. So I'll have a lot more thoughts kind of in the off season when the picture is more clear. But yeah, those are just my thoughts for now.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense for sure. Just a couple quick things here before we wrap up. I want to talk about some injury and other things. Like we said, McClanahan status is still up in the air. I'm sure we're going to get clarity soon. That would be nice. Walls and Mejia, no updates on them. They're still relatively far away. Colby White got moved up to high A in his rehab, which is exciting. Pitching good results-wise in the complex league, but command is still a little off. Evan Reifert is getting some work in the complex league, which is nice. He's coming back. Kittredge is the closest among all of them. He got a 10-day extension on his rehab, so he is due back on or before August 14th. So we'll see what happens with that. His velo is slowly climbing back up. But like we said before in the past, like the Durham radar gun might not be fully calibrated, it seems. So we'll see about that. And also Josh Fleming is working in Durham as well. And when he's activated, I feel like he might stick around in Durham, but rosters expand in September, so who knows? But yeah, that's about it. Are there any other like injury things or like little things I might have missed that happened this week? I went back to work this week, so I wasn't as plugged in as I normally am.
You're still way more plugged in than I am, so you know.
Well, you do the Bucks show, so that's you're plugged into the Bucks. I know who Kyle Trask is. That's about it for me. So
for sure.
But yeah, anything else we want to talk about before we sign off here? Any fun things? No? Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys, both of you, so much for coming on. Cole, I'll let you plug your stuff first. Where can people find you and interact with you and send you tons of DMs and questions all the time, because I'm sure you're happy to respond.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter, or maybe I should be calling it X. As at Raise Metrics, and I also do some work over on D-Raise Bay, and I'm active in some of those forums as well. So that's where you can find me.
Yeah, don't actually like flood his inbox. I was just kidding. Like you can do that to me if you want. I'm probably not going to respond to most of them, but
I'll respond.
Okay. Good luck. And Carter, what about you? What do you do? Who are you?
Right. I cover the Bucks mostly. I'm at the RBLR Bucks show. Definitely check us out there. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at CT Brantley 12. I also actually write for Bucks Report and Creative Loafing. I know we mentioned the Best of the Bay thing, so definitely check me out there as well. But I told Eureka, our producer Eureka, I actually played baseball growing up, so I'm actually a bigger baseball fan than I am a football fan. But I think that sometimes works against me, because I can be a little bit more objective with football and with the Bucks than I can with the Rays, because like I actually really like the Rays. I'm kind of just like, I kind of cover the Bucks, so I can have a little bit harder time being objective with the Rays. But that's how it be sometimes.
Right. Awesome. Well, that's all from us here. Again, make sure you all vote if you can. That would be great. It's super easy. It takes like 2 minutes. Go to Creative Loafing, whatever, Best of the Bay. We vote for us under the entertainment section for best podcast. And thank you for listening. And thank you both of you for coming on, and go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.